Chosen one. Something has been building toward this moment for longer than you know, and today is the day I am going to tell you everything. There is a specific kind of person who finds a message like this one. They do not stumble here by accident. They arrive here the way a river arrives at the sea, because everything in their life has been quietly moving them in this direction, through the detours and the disappointments and the long stretches of silence where they could hear nothing from heaven and felt nothing from the people around them. If that is you, I want you to know right now, before we go any further, that you did not end up here by chance. Something larger than the algorithm brought you to this moment, and I am not going to waste it. Beloved and chosen one, I need to ask you something before we begin, and I want you to answer it honestly. Not out loud, but in that quiet interior place where you keep the things you do not say to anyone. Have you been experiencing things lately that you cannot quite explain? Things that feel personal, but also feel like they are coming from somewhere outside of you. Because there are signs that only chosen ones carry, and most people around them have no language for what they are seeing. The first sign is that your dreams have become unusually vivid and unusually specific. Not random noise, but images and scenes that stay with you into the morning, that carry a weight that ordinary dreams do not carry. The second sign is that you have been feeling a frustration that you cannot trace to a single cause. It is not depression. It is not burnout, though it can feel like both. It is the frustration of someone who knows at a cellular level that they were built for more, and who is standing still when everything inside them says it is time to move. The third sign is that the people and places that used to feel like home have started to feel unfamiliar. Not because anything has changed in them, but because something is changing in you, something that is outgrowing the containers that used to hold you. The fourth sign is that you keep receiving the same message from different directions, a song lyric, a conversation overheard in a parking lot, a verse that falls open at exactly the right moment, a stranger who says exactly the right word. And the fifth sign is that even in your most exhausted moments, there is something underneath the exhaustion that refuses to quit. Something that does not give up even when you tell it to. Something that keeps believing even when you have run out of arguments for why it should. I want you to hear this with every part of yourself that is listening. Heaven has not forgotten your address. God has not lost track of the timeline of your life. What you have been living through is not a mistake, and it is not a punishment. It is a positioning. You are not someone who has been passed over. You are someone who has been set apart, and there is a difference between those two things that is so important. I am going to spend this entire message making sure you feel it in your bones. You are an earth angel. That is not a poetic phrase. That is a description of a specific kind of person who was placed in this generation to carry something that most people cannot carry, to hold light in places where most people give up, to break patterns that have been running in families and communities for decades. You carry a weight that was not given to you randomly. It was given to you because something in you was built to bear it and then transform it. I want you to pause for just a second and let that land. Heaven did not pause everything around you to deliver this message because your situation is ordinary. You are not ordinary. The waiting you have been living through is not ordinary. And the thing that is coming is not ordinary either. The arrival you have been praying for did not come later. It came here. Before I take you deeper into what this season truly means, I want to pause for just a moment and share something with you, because it is directly connected to everything I am about to say, And I do not want to take you through this message without giving you this anchor first. There is science that speaks directly to what chosen ones carry. Researchers who study the brain have identified a specific type of brainwave pattern called gamma frequency, and what they have found is extraordinary. Chosen ones are born with a stronger gamma signal than the average person. It is part of what makes you different, part of what makes you feel things more deeply, see things others miss, and carry a capacity for insight that most people around you simply do not have access to. But here is the part that matters for where you are right now. Long seasons of waiting, chronic hardship, years of being unseen and unrecognized. These experiences suppress that frequency over time. They do not erase it, but they compress it, the way a fire is compressed when it runs low on air. A neuroscientist named Dr. James Rivers, who has spent over 30 years in research affiliated with MIT, made it his life's work to understand what happens to that frequency and how to restore it. What he developed is called the genius wave, and it requires only 7 minutes. 7 minutes of a specifically designed audio that works with your brain's natural architecture to bring that suppressed gamma signal back online. I will tell you much more about this very soon. But if you feel something stir in you when I describe it, the link is already waiting for you in the pinned comment below. We will come back to this in much greater detail. But I did not want to carry you through everything that is about to unfold without first giving you that anchor. And now I want to go deeper. Because understanding what your brain carries is only one part of this picture. The other part is understanding what your spirit has been doing during these long and silent years, and why those two things, the science of your frequency and the story of your calling, are not separate conversations at all. They are the same conversation. Chosen one. There is something that happens in the life of a person who has been set apart that is almost impossible to describe to someone who has not lived it. It is a particular kind of aloneness, not the aloneness of being surrounded by no one, but the aloneness of being surrounded by people who do not quite see you. You can be in a room full of people who love you, genuinely love you, and still feel completely invisible in the most important parts of who you are. You can explain yourself carefully and still feel like your words are landing somewhere that is not quite where you meant them to go. This is not a social problem. This is a spiritual condition. And it belongs specifically to people who have been designated to carry something beyond what their current environment can contain. When God sets someone apart, there is a period, and for some people it is a very long period, where that person lives between two worlds. They are too far along in their transformation to fit comfortably back into where they came from, but they have not yet arrived at the place their calling is pulling them toward. This in-between space is where chosen ones experience some of the most intense spiritual disorientation of their lives. It is the space where doubt moves in uninvited. It is the space where comparison becomes a daily temptation. It is the space where the enemy whispers that the calling was never real to begin with, that you imagined it, that you are waiting for something that was never actually promised. But I want you to hear me on this. The intensity of that pressure is not evidence that the calling is false. It is evidence that the calling is real and that something in the spiritual atmosphere knows it. You have not been abandoned in this in-between space. You have been accompanied in it. And the fact that you are here, right now, listening to every word of this message, tells me that you have not given up, that the part of you that was chosen is still awake, still listening, still willing to believe that this season has a purpose and a direction and an end. I want to give you something to carry into the rest of this message. 3 simple steps that you can do right now, wherever you are. before we go any further. Step 1. Think of one thing you are grateful for that did not happen. Not something you received, but something you were spared. A door that closed that you later understood was protecting you. A relationship that ended before it could go further in the wrong direction. A plan that fell through, that made room for something you could not have imagined. Sit with that for a moment and let it remind you that even silence has been working on your behalf. Step 2. Say this inwardly, not out loud, but with your full attention behind it. The time I thought I lost was not lost. It was being held. Step 3. For the next 7 minutes, whatever you are doing, whether you are sitting still or whether this is playing in the background, give yourself permission to simply receive, not to figure anything out, not to plan, not to evaluate, just to receive what is being offered in this moment. This is the practice that opens the door to everything I am about to share with you. If something in this message has already landed somewhere real in you, I want to invite you to let that ripple out a little further, because somewhere out there right now, another chosen one is in the darkest part of their waiting season, and this message could be exactly what they need to hear. If you feel that stirring inside you, the one that says, "This is for someone I know," would you consider pressing like so? This message can find its way to them, and leaving a word in the comments so that the next person who arrives here does not feel like they arrived alone. Share this with one person who has been quietly carrying something heavy. If you want the next message to find you without you having to search, subscribe, and let it come to you. And if you feel moved to pass something forward to help this message reach the next person who needs it, there is a link in the pinned comment below. No pressure, no obligation, just an open door. You have just been given 7 minutes and 3 steps. And now I want to give you the full picture of what was briefly introduced. Because everything that is coming in this message builds on the foundation of understanding exactly what you carry and exactly what can restore it. Picture this. It is 3 in the morning. A woman sits at her kitchen table with a cold cup of tea in front of her and a notepad that has not been written in for weeks. She is not crying. She has moved past crying. She is in that hollow, still place that comes after the tears run out. The place where you just sit and stare at the wall and wonder if you have been fooling yourself this entire time. She has prayed. She has fasted. She has believed. She has served. She has given when she had almost nothing left to give. And still, the thing she has been waiting for has not come. The promotion did not come. The relationship did not come. The healing did not come. The breakthrough she was promised did not come. And sitting at that table in the dark, she opens her phone, not looking for anything in particular. And she finds a message. She presses play. And something happens that she cannot explain. Not to her sister, not to her pastor, not to her closest friend. Something shifts. Not in her. Circumstances. In her. I know that story because she wrote to me afterward. And I know that many of you sitting with this message right now are sitting in your own version of that kitchen table at 3 in the morning. Different room, different circumstances. Same hollow stillness. Same question underneath it all. Is this ever going to change? I told you earlier in this message that I would come back to something. I mentioned it briefly, almost in passing, because I did not want to interrupt the flow of what you were receiving. But now I want to give you the full picture, because what I am about to share with you is not a detour from the spiritual conversation we have been having. It is a deeper layer of the same conversation. Earlier, I introduced you to the concept of gamma brainwaves and to the work of Dr. James Rivers. Now I want to take you inside that research and show you exactly why it matters for where you are in your life right now. Here is what decades of neuroscience have confirmed, and what chosen ones have always known intuitively without having the language for it. You carry a specific frequency. It is not metaphorical. It is not spiritual poetry. It is measurable, detectable, and real. Researchers call it gamma. It is the highest of the major brainwave frequencies, operating above 40 Hz, and it is associated with the moments humans describe as peak clarity, sudden insight, deep creative flow, and what some people call divine downloads. The moments where the answer simply arrives, fully formed, without you having to strain for it. The moments where you know something with a certainty that bypasses logic entirely. Chosen ones have a naturally stronger gamma signal than most people. It is part of the architecture of who you are. It is part of why you sense things before they happen. It is part of why you carry a depth of perception that can sometimes make you feel like a stranger in ordinary conversation. But here is what those same researchers discovered, and this is the part that explains so much about what the long seasons of waiting do to a person. Chronic stress, prolonged isolation, years of being unseen and undervalued, and the specific kind of grief that comes from carrying a big calling in a small container. These experiences do not destroy the gamma signal, but they suppress it. They push it down, the way a strong voice is pushed down when it has been told too many times that it is too loud. The frequency is still there. The capacity is still there, but it has been muffled, compressed, forced inward, until the person it belongs to can no longer fully access what they were born to carry. Dr. James Rivers has spent over 30 years working on exactly this problem. His research, affiliated with MIT, began with a simple question. If the brain has a natural high-performance state, why do most people spend so little time in it? And is there a way to deliberately return to it without years of meditation practice or pharmaceutical intervention? What he discovered is that the brain has a built-in mechanism called entrainment. The brain does not simply generate its own frequencies in isolation. It responds to frequencies from its environment. When the right kind of audio signal reaches the brain through the ears, the brain will begin to synchronize with it. The way two pendulums on the same wall will eventually begin to swing together. This is not a theory. This is a documented neurological phenomenon that has been studied and replicated in laboratories for decades. What Dr. Rivers developed after years of testing and refinement is a precisely calibrated audio designed to guide the brain into theta and gamma states simultaneously. Theta, which operates between 4 and 8 Hz, is the frequency of deep learning, strong intuition, and the kind of creative insight that feels like it comes from somewhere beyond the conscious mind. It is the frequency children spend most of their waking lives, which is why they absorb information so effortlessly and why imagination operates without the brakes that adult life installs. Gamma is the frequency of peak cognitive performance, of the eureka moment, of the flow state that elite athletes and artists and innovators describe as the condition in which everything becomes possible and nothing feels like effort. The genius wave guides your brain into both of these states at once, and the amount of time it requires is 7 minutes. I know that sounds almost offensively simple given the complexity of what we are describing, but that simplicity is the result of extraordinary precision. 7 minutes is not a round number chosen for marketing convenience. It is the duration that Dr. Rivers' research identified as the optimal window for the brain to fully enter and stabilize the target frequency state without inducing fatigue. Too short, and the synchronization is incomplete. Too long, and the brain begins to compensate. 7 minutes is the exact threshold. and it connects directly to the 7 minutes of silent practice I invited you into at the end of part 1. Because what you experienced in those 7 minutes, whether it felt significant or subtle, was your brain beginning to respond to the invitation. I want to tell you about someone, a man named Gerald, a 53-year-old contractor in the Midwest, who had been in a quiet professional crisis for 4 years. Work had dried up. His confidence had taken the kind of slow, steady damage that does not announce itself dramatically, but simply erodes, month by month, until one day you realize you no longer trust your own judgment. He started using the Genius Wave, not expecting much, more out of a desperate willingness to try anything than genuine belief. By the 3rd week, something he described as the fog lifting began. Not dramatically, not all at once, but the ideas started coming back. The decisiveness came back. He landed a contract larger than anything he had managed in 6 years, and he told the person who shared the resource with him, "I did not feel like a new person. I felt like myself again, but a version of myself I thought I had permanently lost." That is what restoration of the gamma frequency feels like. Not transformation into someone unrecognizable. Return to the person you were always supposed to be. Now I want to be straightforward with you, because I respect you too much to be anything else. I know that some of you are hearing this and thinking, $39 is not nothing, especially not for someone who has been in a long season where resources have been tight and trust has been tested. That thought is valid. I am not going to talk you out of it or rush past it, but I want you to hold it alongside this. What is it costing you per day, per week, per year to continue operating below the frequency you were designed to carry? What has the suppression of your gamma signal already cost you in missed clarity, in delayed decisions, in creative capacity that went untapped, in opportunities that arrived when you were too fogged, too exhausted to recognize them? I am not asking that rhetorically. I am asking it as a genuine invitation to put the number in context. The Genius Wave is normally priced at $49. Through the link in the pinned comment below, it is available today for $39. It comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee, which means you have 3 full months to experience what it does before you make a final decision about whether it belongs in your life. If at any point within those 90 days you feel it has not delivered, you receive a full refund, no questions, no process, no friction. One thing I need to say clearly: there are imitations and unauthorized copies of this program circulating online. I am aware of them and I want to protect you from them. The only verified, legitimate version of the Genius Wave is available through the single link in the pinned comment below. Do not purchase from any other source. What you get elsewhere may carry the name but not the calibration, and calibration is everything. The precision of the frequency is what produces the result. A copy of an instrument is not an instrument. And I want you to understand this. The price at this level and the availability at this price are both time limited. This is not a pressure tactic. It is information you deserve to have so you can make a real decision with full awareness. If this message finds you at a moment when you feel the resonance of what I am describing, do not wait until later. Later is when the feeling has faded. Later is when the reasons not to become louder than the knowing that said yes. The link is in the pinned comment. It is waiting for you exactly the way everything in your life that has been prepared for you has been waiting. Quietly, without impatience, with complete confidence that you will arrive exactly when you are supposed to. And now, I want to go somewhere even deeper with you. Because before we talk about what is coming, we need to talk about what you have already been feeling, and name it in a way that perhaps no one has named it for you yet. There is something that happens when a chosen one has been in a long season of waiting, and it is not what most people expect. Most people expect that the hardest part of waiting is the absence of what you want, but that is not actually the hardest part. The hardest part is the feeling that you cannot explain the waiting to anyone around you in a way that makes sense. You try, you find the words, or you think you do, and then you watch the other person nod politely, and you know, somewhere, behind their eyes, that they have not quite landed where you needed them. And so, you stop explaining. You carry it alone. And carrying it alone, over months and years, produces a specific kind of interior weight that I want to name for you right now, because I believe that being named, being seen in the specific texture of what you are carrying, is itself a form of healing. There are 4 signs that people in this particular season will recognize immediately, and I want to go through them one by one, slowly, because each one deserves its own moment. The first sign is a sudden wave of sadness about the past that arrives without warning and without an obvious trigger. You could be driving. You could be washing dishes. You could be in the middle of a conversation that has nothing to do with anything painful. And then it arrives, a grief that does not belong to the present moment, a sorrow that seems to be coming from a direction you cannot quite locate. People who have not experienced this will tell you it is depression. People who have not experienced this will tell you to see a therapist, to change your diet, to get more sleep. And maybe some of those things would help, but the wave itself is not a malfunction. It is your spirit processing the weight of a long road. It is the accumulated cost of years of faithfulness without visible return. It is real, and it is valid, and it belongs to the specific kind of person who was given a specific kind of calling, and then asked to carry it through terrain that did not cooperate. The second sign is that familiar places and people have begun to feel heavy and strange. Not hostile, not wrong, just strange. The way a childhood bedroom feels when you return to it as an adult and realize that the room has not changed, but you have changed so much that the room no longer fits you the way it used to. The people you have known for years are still the same people. They are still kind, still present, still well meaning. But there is a gap now between who you were when those relationships were formed and who you are becoming. And that gap creates a loneliness that is very difficult to describe, because from the outside, everything looks fine. The relationships are intact. The connections are still there. But something essential is no longer quite meeting in the middle, and you grieve that quietly without knowing exactly what you are grieving. The third sign is a recurring dream about an unopened door. It does not always look like a door. Sometimes it is a room you cannot enter. Sometimes it is a road that ends before you can see where it leads. Sometimes it is a key that you are holding but cannot find the lock for. The image shifts, but the feeling is always the same. You are right at the threshold of something. You are close enough to feel the warmth coming through the gap at the bottom. But the door has not opened yet, and in the dream, unlike in life, the waiting does not feel like punishment. In the dream, there is a quality of anticipation, almost a holiness to the moment of standing at the threshold. That dream is not random. That dream is your spirit showing you the truth of your situation in a language that bypasses the doubt and the exhaustion of your waking mind. The fourth sign is that you keep receiving the same message from different places at the same time. A verse that keeps appearing. A phrase that someone uses in a conversation and then turns up again. Something you are reading and then appears one more time in something you hear on the radio. A theme that surfaces in 3 different encounters in the space of a single week. This is not coincidence, and you know it is not coincidence. You feel it in your body when it happens. There is a recognition that goes deeper than the mind. A knowing that says something is trying to reach me. Something is trying to confirm something, and that knowing is correct. Heaven does not repeat itself by accident. When the same message finds you from 3 different directions in the same season, it is because the message is not optional. It is because something is trying to make sure you receive it before you take the next step. Now I want to speak to something even more specific, because chosen ones in this season do not only experience those 4 signs. They also carry particular pains that most people around them do not see and do not ask about. There is the insomnia, not the insomnia of someone with a racing mind full of tasks and worries, though it can feel like that from the outside. It is the insomnia of someone whose spirit is awake at 3 in the morning because something is being processed at a level that the daytime hours cannot contain. You lie there in the dark and you are not anxious exactly. You are alert, you are waiting, and you do not know what you are waiting for. Only that sleep feels somehow insufficient for the magnitude of what is moving. There is the loneliness that has a specific flavor. It is not the loneliness of someone with no one around them. It is the loneliness of someone who is surrounded by people and still feels that the deepest and most essential parts of who they are have never quite been met by another human being. The loneliness of someone who has spent years being the strong one, the one who holds things together, the one who shows up for everyone else, while quietly wondering if anyone is going to show up for them in the places that actually matter. There is the feeling of being wronged, which is perhaps the most dangerous of all, because it has enough truth in it to be convincing. You were overlooked. You were passed over. People with less integrity and less faithfulness and less genuine gift received things that should have been yours, and you watched it happen, and you tried to be gracious about it. And underneath the graciousness, there has been a wound that has never fully healed. I am not going to tell you that wound is not real. It is real. What I am going to tell you is that the story you tell about that wound is the thing that either keeps you bound or sets you free. And there is the feeling of being misunderstood in the most fundamental sense, not just your opinions or your preferences, but your nature, who you actually are, what you were actually built to do, and why you operate the way you operate. You have spent so much energy trying to translate yourself into a language that other people can understand, that you have sometimes lost track of the original language entirely. Here is what I want you to understand about all of it. Every single one of these experiences, the sadness, the strangeness, the recurring dream, the repeated message, the insomnia, the loneliness, the wound of being passed over, the exhaustion of being misunderstood. None of these are evidence that you have been abandoned. They are evidence that you have been positioned. There is a difference between being overlooked and being positioned, and that difference is everything. Being overlooked means you were seen and deemed insufficient. Being positioned means you were deliberately placed by a hand that does exactly what it is doing, in a location that does not yet reveal its purpose, but that is perfectly suited to the assignment that is coming. The people who overlooked you were not your judges. They were instruments of your positioning. The seasons that felt like punishment were not punishments. They were placements. And a person who has been placed is not a person who has been forgotten. They are a person who is being prepared for a moment that requires exactly the specific shape that their specific suffering has created in them. You were not passed over, you were set apart, and the distinction between those two things is not small. It is the entire story. Now, before we go any further, I want to pause here for just a moment, because what you have just recognized in yourself is not only personal. All across the world, right now, other chosen ones are sitting with this same recognition arriving in their own hearts. And that is not a small thing. If this named something real in you, would you consider pressing like so? This message can reach the person who is waiting to be seen in this way, and leaving a word in the comments as a quiet way of saying, I was here, I showed up for myself today. If you know someone who has been carrying this particular weight in silence, share this with them. It may be the most important thing you do for them this week. And if you feel moved to leave a blessing in the pinned comment, so that the next person who arrives here finds their way a little more easily, that door is open. Choose to stay at the table by subscribing, not as a platform action, but as a choice to remain part of a community of chosen ones who are learning to see themselves clearly. Type the words "I see it" in the comments if what I just described recognized something in you that has needed to be named for a very long time, because being named is where the next part of this journey begins. Let me stay right here with you for a moment before we move forward, because what you just received deserves to be held, not rushed past. You were named. You were seen. And I know that for some of you, that alone stirred something that has not moved in a very long time. But being seen is only the beginning of what this message is here to do. Because being seen means nothing if we do not also have the courage to look honestly at what the years have cost. And that is where I want to take you now. I am not going to reframe this too quickly. I am not going to rush you to the silver lining before we have sat honestly with the weight of what has been lost. Because chosen ones are so accustomed to being told to be grateful, to trust the process, to believe that everything happens for a reason, that they have sometimes never been given permission to simply say, "This was hard. This took something from me. This cost me in ways I have not fully tallied yet." And I want to give you that permission right now, not as an invitation to bitterness, as an act of honesty. Because you cannot truly move forward from a place you have never fully acknowledged being in. So let us be honest about what the years of waiting have taken. They took relationships that could have been built. There were people who showed up in your life during this season. People who reached out, who tried to get closer, who offered connection, and you were so depleted, so stretched thin by the weight of what you were carrying, that you could not show up for those relationships the way you would have wanted to. You watched potential friendships stay shallow because you had nothing left to bring to depth. You watched romantic possibilities close before they opened because the version of yourself that was available was not the version of yourself you wanted to offer someone. You told yourself you would invest in those connections later, when things settled, when you had more to give, and some of those people are no longer in reach. That is a real loss. It deserves to be acknowledged as a real loss. They took a career that could have gone further. There were opportunities you saw coming and could not position yourself to receive because the timing was wrong in a way that was not your fault, but that felt like your fault. There were moments where you were so close to a breakthrough that you could feel it, and then something shifted, something collapsed. Something that was not in your control took the moment away from you, and you had to watch someone else step into the space that should have been yours. You worked hard. You prepared. You were faithful in the small things. And the return did not come when it should have. And the gap between what you gave and what you received has been quietly accumulating in a ledger that nobody else can see. They took the freedom to tell your big dreams out loud. There came a point in this season where you stopped sharing the vision with people. Not because the vision died, but because you could not bear one more politely skeptical response, one more well-meaning suggestion to be more realistic, one more conversation where you left feeling smaller than when you arrived. So you put the dream somewhere private. You kept it alive in the quiet places, but you stopped bringing it into rooms where it might be diminished, and something was lost in that. The dream survived, but the joy of carrying it openly, the lightness of being someone who speaks their future out loud without apology, that was taken. And you may not have named that as a loss until this moment, but it was one, and perhaps most painfully of all, they took, or came very close to taking, your faith in yourself. Not your faith in God, though that has been tested too, but your faith in your own perception, your ability to trust what you sense, what you know, what you believe you were built for. Because when you wait long enough for something that does not arrive, you begin to wonder if you misread the signal. You begin to wonder if the calling was real, or if it was something you invented to make the ordinary feel meaningful. You begin to wonder if the problem is not the circumstances, but you, if something essential in you is broken or insufficient or simply wrong. And that particular doubt, the doubt that lives in the gap between the calling and the confirmation, is the heaviest thing a chosen one can carry. I want to sit here with you in that cost for a moment, not to fix it, not to explain it away, just to sit in it together and let it be true without immediately reaching for the redemption arc. Because there was a woman who sat in this exact place. Her name was Hannah, and her story is in the first book of Samuel, beginning in chapter 1. Hannah wanted something with everything in her. She had been faithful. She had been present. She'd been a woman of genuine devotion and sincere heart, and she had been waiting so long for the thing she desired that the waiting had become its own kind of identity, the thing people saw when they looked at her, the thing she could not escape even in her own home. The cost in Hannah's life was not abstract, it was daily and it was specific. She sat at a table where her pain was visible to everyone and understood by almost no one. There was a woman in her household who had what Hannah did not have, and who made sure Hannah never forgot it. Year after year, in the place that should have been her sanctuary, Hannah was provoked, reminded, reduced to the sum of her lack, and the text does not tell us that Hannah handled this with serenity. It tells us she wept. It tells us she could not eat. It tells us that the grief was so present and so physical that it showed on her body and in her face and in her inability to be consoled by the people who loved her. Her husband Elkanah loved her. He tried. He asked her with genuine tenderness why she was weeping and why she would not eat. And then he said something that I think is one of the most well-meaning and most insufficient things a loving person can say to someone in Hannah's position. He said, "Am I not better to you than 10 sons?" He meant it kindly. He was trying to offer comfort by pointing to what she had rather than what she lacked. But what he could not understand, what even the people who love us most often cannot understand, is that the longing of a called person is not a longing that can be redirected towards something else. It is not a preference. It is not a desire that can be substituted. It is a specific ache for a specific thing that only the fulfillment of that specific thing can address. Hannah went to the temple, and she prayed in a way that the text describes as pouring out her soul. Not a tidy prayer, not a composed prayer, a prayer that was so raw and so physical that the priest who watched her assumed she was drunk. That is how deep the grief was. That is how long it had been building. That is what years of carrying an unanswered longing looks like when it finally finds a place to be expressed without restraint. I want you to notice something about where Hannah was in her story at this point. She had not yet received anything. The answer had not come. The thing she longed for was still absent. She was still in the full weight of the cost, and yet she brought the full weight of that cost to the only place where it could truly be held. She did not pretend it was not heavy. She did not perform gratitude she did not feel. She did not tell herself to be realistic or to let go of the dream. She carried it in all its raw and broken weight to the threshold and laid it down to the threshold. That is where you are right now, not the resolution, at the threshold. And the threshold, as Hannah's story will show us, is not the end of the story. It is exactly where the story turns. There is a word I want to give you now, and I want you to receive it slowly, because it is going to change the way you understand everything you have been living through. Not just the waiting, not just the pain, all of it. The entire arc of your story up to this moment is going to look different by the time we finish with this word. The word is kava. It is an ancient Hebrew word that appears in some of the most well-known promises in Scripture, and for generations it has been translated into English as simply the word wait. Wait on the Lord. Those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. And when most people read that translation, they picture exactly what the word wait suggests in English. They picture stillness, passivity, sitting in a room with your hands folded, staring at the door, hoping something walks through it. They picture endurance as the absence of movement. And if that is how you have been understanding your season, I need to tell you right now that the translation has been quietly lying to you. Kava does not mean to sit still and endure. Kava is a word that comes from the image of braiding a rope. It is the word for the act of taking multiple strands, separate, individual strands that on their own are fragile and insufficient, and twisting them together under tension until they become something that can bear extraordinary weight. The tension is not incidental to the process. The tension is the process. Without the tension, the strands do not bind. Without the pressure applied at exactly the right angle and with exactly the right force, you do not get a rope. You get a pile of threads. Every year of your waiting has been a strand. Every disappointment that did not break you has been a strand. Every moment you chose to stay faithful when leaving would have been easier has been a strand. Every prayer that felt like it evaporated before it reached the ceiling has been a strand. Every relationship that cost you more than it gave, every opportunity that closed before you could reach it, every night you spent at your own version of Hannah's threshold, weeping in a way that looked to everyone around you like something was wrong. Every single one of those experiences has been a strand being added to the braid. You are not delayed. You are being assembled. I want you to feel the difference between those two statements. Delayed means something that should have happened has not happened yet, and the reason is either a mistake or a punishment or a deficiency in you. Assembled means that what is being built requires every component to be in place before it can function, and the builder knows exactly which component is still being prepared and why. A delay is a disruption to a plan. Assembly is the plan. And what is being built in you has never been behind schedule. It has always been exactly on time, according to the only timeline that matters. The ancient wisdom that contains the concept of kava also contains a companion truth that I need to give you alongside it. The people who braided ropes in the ancient world knew something that we have largely forgotten in a culture of instant results and immediate feedback. They knew that the strength of the finished rope was not visible in the individual strands. You could look at each strand separately and have no way of knowing what that rope was going to be able to hold when it was finished. The strength was latent. It was potential. It was real, but invisible until the moment the rope was tested under the weight it was designed to carry. And then And only then did the full nature of what had been built reveal itself. You have been in the braiding season. The strength that has been developing in you through these years of tension and pressure and waiting under load is real. It is not visible yet in the way that the world measures visibility. It has not yet been tested in the specific way that will reveal its full nature. But it is there. It has been accumulating in you the way the strength accumulates in a rope, strand by strand, turn by turn, quietly and without announcement, until the day the weight is placed on it and everyone, including you, discovers what was actually being built. And now I want to give you the second word, because kava tells you what has been happening in the season. But there is another ancient concept that tells you what is about to happen at the end of it. And that concept is what I would call the hour of revelation. There is a moment that comes in the life of every person who has been set apart for something significant. A moment that does not arrive gradually, but arrives the way dawn arrives. Not slowly, but all at once. The way the sky goes from dark to light in what feels like a single breath. It is the moment where the truth of why you have been on this road is finally revealed, not just intellectually, not just as information you receive, but as an understanding that moves through your entire being and reorders everything you thought you knew about your own story. In that moment, the rejections that felt like proof of your insufficiencies reveal themselves as protection from assignments that would have destroyed you before you were ready for them. The relationships that ended in ways that left you bewildered reveal themselves as careful removals, as the hand of something wise and loving clearing your path of what would have slowed you down or pulled you sideways at the critical moment. The opportunities that closed before you could reach them reveal themselves as misdirections you were mercifully spared. Exits off a road that would have taken you somewhere you were never meant to go. The final pain receives its name, and the name is not punishment. The name is calling. This is the hour of revelation, and I want to tell you something about the timing of that hour, because this is where kava and the hour of revelation meet in a way that will make complete sense of your story. The hour of revelation cannot arrive before the assembly is complete. The rope cannot reveal its strength before it has been fully braided. The moment of understanding cannot come before the person has developed the interior capacity to hold what that understanding requires of them. If the revelations had come earlier, in the third year of your waiting instead of the seventh, or in the second instead of the fifth, you would not have had the depth to receive it. You would have had the information without the formation. And information without formation does not transform. It inflates and then it collapses. The timing of your hour of revelation is not cruel. It is precise. It is the timing of someone who knows exactly how many strands the rope needs before it can hold the weight of what is coming. Hannah's hour of revelation came at the threshold of the temple. In the moment she stopped managing her grief and simply poured it out in its fullness without apology or performance. The priest saw her lips moving and heard no sound and misread her completely. And in that moment, the most misunderstood moment of her most desperate prayer, heaven moved. Not because she finally said the right words, not because she performed her faith correctly, but because she brought every strand of her waiting to the one place where the braiding could be completed. You are closer to your own threshold than you know. And I want to remind you gently, because this is not a detour, but a continuation of everything we have been building together, that the work of restoring your frequency, of bringing the gamma signal that has been suppressed by years of tension back into its full operational strength, is part of this same story. The genius wave is not separate from your spiritual journey. It is one of the tools heaven has placed at this threshold for exactly this season. 7 minutes. The link is in the pinned comment, quiet and unhurried, waiting for you the way. All things prepared for you wait, without pressure, without urgency, with complete confidence that you will know when the time is right. And the time, chosen one, is becoming very clear. Because what the braiding has been building toward, what the hour of revelation is beginning to illuminate, is not just an answer to the question of why. It is the opening of something specific. Something in 3 directions at once. And that is exactly where we are going next. Something is moving. I do not say that to create a feeling. I say it because it is true, and because the part of you that has been in this season long enough to recognize the difference between a feeling and a knowing is already feeling it. There is a shift happening in the atmosphere of your life that is different from anything you have experienced in this long season of waiting. It is not louder. It is not more dramatic. If anything, it is quieter than you expected, but it is more certain. And certainty, real certainty, the kind that comes from somewhere deeper than hope, is the first sign that the ground is already moving beneath your feet. I want to be specific with you now, because chosen ones in this season do not need more poetry about what is coming. They need someone to look them in the eye and describe it in language that is concrete enough to hold on to when the doubt tries to move back in. So that is what I am going to do. I am going to tell you 3 specific things that are already in motion in your life. 3 areas where the shift has already begun, even if the evidence has not fully surfaced yet. And I am going to describe them in enough detail that you will recognize them when they arrive. The first thing that is moving is your relational landscape. I want you to understand something about the people who are about to enter your life, because they are going to be different from the people who have rounded you during this waiting season in ways that are going to feel almost startling at first. The people who are coming are not coming to need you in the way that people have needed you throughout this season. You have spent years being the one who holds things together, the one who gives more than they receive, the one whose strength everyone else leans on while quietly wondering if anyone is going to notice that you are tired. The people who are coming are not coming to be held by you. They are coming to stand alongside you. They are coming as peers, as collaborators, as people whose gifts are specifically shaped to complement the gaps in yours, and whose assignment in this season is to help you carry what you were not meant to carry alone. But before those people arrive, something else is going to happen, and I want you to be prepared for it rather than blindsided by it. Some of the relationships that have been part of your life during this season are going to begin to loosen on their own, not dramatically, not with conflict or confrontation in most cases. They will simply begin to require less of you, and you will begin to feel less urgently connected to them. And over time, you will realize that the loosening was not a loss, but a release. Not every person who walked with you through the wilderness is meant to walk with you into what comes next. Some people were sent for a season, and the most honoring thing you can do for both of you is to release them with gratitude rather than clinging to the familiarity of what they represented during a chapter that is closing. The second thing that is moving is your sense of purpose. And this one is going to surprise you with how simple it feels when it arrives. Because you have been bracing for a thunderclap, a dramatic revelation, a moment where the sky opens and a voice speaks and everything becomes suddenly and undeniably clear. But that is not how purpose usually arrives for chosen ones who have been through a long season of braiding. It arrives as a small, clear step, one step Not a map, not a 5-year plan, not a complete picture of where everything is going. Just one step that carries an unusual quality of peace. A step that does not feel forced or performed or driven by the need for outside validation. A step that simply feels like the truest thing available to you right now. The question you have been carrying, the question of what you are supposed to do with your life and your gifts and your calling, is going to answer itself in that one clear small step. And when it does, I want you to resist the temptation to wait for more clarity before you move. The clarity that comes after the first step is not available before the first step. The path reveals itself by being walked, not by being studied from a distance. When that one clear step appears, take it. Trust the peace that accompanies it more than you trust the fear that argues against it. The third thing that is moving is the area of resources and opportunity. And this is perhaps the most important one for me to describe carefully, because the enemy of chosen ones at this particular threshold is not scarcity. It is the habit of scarcity. It is the deeply ingrained expectation, built up over years of striving and receiving less than you gave, that the only way to receive anything is to fight for it, to hustle for it, to make yourself indispensable and prove your worth and outwork everyone around you. That habit served a purpose in the season you are leaving, kept you going when the returns were thin. But it is going to become a limitation in the season you are entering if you do not recognize it and release it. What is coming is not going to require that fight. The opportunities that are aligned with your assignment are going to arrive with a quality that is completely different from the opportunities you had to force your way toward in the previous season. They are going to arrive with an ease that may initially feel suspicious, because you have been trained by years of difficulty to distrust anything that does not cost you an enormous amount of effort. But ease is not always a warning sign. Sometimes ease is the evidence that you have finally arrived at the territory where your specific gifts are native, where the ground was prepared for exactly the shape of what you carry, where you are no longer swimming against the current, but moving with it. You are not going to have to fight for what is coming. You are going to have to be ready to receive it without immediately looking for the catch. Now I want to tell you what not to do during this period, because the transition between seasons is where chosen ones most often stumble, and I want to protect you from the specific stumbles that are most common at this threshold. Do not make any major decisions from a place of impatience. The shift has begun, but the full manifestation takes the time it takes. And the worst thing you can do at the threshold of a breakthrough is to force a door open that is already in the process of opening on its own. Forcing it will not speed up the timeline. It will introduce damage to the door that has to be repaired before you can walk through it cleanly. Do not re-enter relationships or environments that were part of the old season simply because the new season feels unfamiliar and the old one feels safe. Familiarity is not the same as rightness. The discomfort of the new is not evidence that you made a wrong turn. It is evidence that you are in territory you have not inhabited before, and that disorientation is normal and temporary. Do not minimize what you are sensing. If something inside you is saying, "This is it, this is the shift," do not talk yourself out of it with the accumulated skepticism of a long waiting season. Your discernment has been sharpened by everything you have been through. Trust it. And above all, do not stop now. You can believe in everything that is coming. You can believe in the relationships that are arriving. You can believe in the purpose that is clarifying. You can believe in the resources and opportunities that are moving toward you with your name already on them. You have earned the right to believe, not because believing makes it happen, but because the evidence of the entire journey you have been on points unmistakably in one direction: forward. Chosen ones do not just receive what has been prepared for them. They carry it forward and multiply it, and every person who finds this message is part of a movement that no single waiting season could contain. If something in what I just described landed in a real place in you, I want to invite you to press like as an act of choosing to be part of what is being built here, and to drop a word in the comments as a signal to other chosen ones that they are not watching alone. Share this with someone who is still in the thick of their waiting season and needs to know that the ground is already shifting beneath their feet. And choose to stay at this table by subscribing, not as a gesture toward an algorithm, but as a declaration that you are remaining part of a community of chosen ones who are waking up together. If you feel moved to sow into the ground that is growing something for the next person in line, the link is in the pinned comment, and what you extend there will reach further than you can currently see. Type the word "I am ready" in the comments if you recognize what I just described moving in your life right now, because what is moving deserves to be spoken out loud, and the person you are becoming deserves to be named. The ground is shifting beneath you, and you can feel it. Not as noise, not as disruption, but as something settling into place that has been suspended for a very long time. And now that we have named what is moving, I want to name who is moving. Because the relational landscape shifting, and the purpose clarifying, and the resources realigning are not happening to a generic person. They are happening to a specific person who has been shaped by a specific journey into a specific kind of human being. And that person has a name that I want to give you now. Not a name anyone else has given you. Not the name the waiting seasons called you. Not the name your circumstances assigned you. But the name that belongs to who you actually are on the other side of everything you have come through. You are a wound breaker. I want to take a moment with that name because it deserves more than a passing introduction. A wound breaker is not simply someone who has been wounded and survived. Survival alone does not qualify a person for this identity. There are many people who survive wounds and carry them forward unchanged, passing the same patterns to the next generation, the same silences, the same defaults, the same inherited limitations that were passed to them. A wound breaker is something different. A wound breaker is a person who was handed a wound that had been running through their lineage, through their community, through their relational history, for longer than they can trace, and who made a choice, not once, but repeatedly, in small moments and large ones, to refuse to pass it forward unchanged. You did not always know you were making that choice. Sometimes it looked like simply deciding not to say the thing your parent would have said. Sometimes it looked like staying in a hard conversation instead of walking away the way the pattern said to walk away. Sometimes it looked like choosing to believe something better was possible even when everything in your environment told you that better was naive and foolish, and the territory of people who had not yet been disappointed enough to know how the world actually works. But every one of those moments, seen and unseen, witnessed and entirely private, was an act of wound breaking. Every one of those moments was you refusing to be the next link in a chain that needed to end. A wound breaker carries something in their presence that is difficult to articulate but impossible to miss once you know what you are looking for. They carry a quality of permission. When a wound breaker enters a room, something in the people around them begins to believe that change is possible. Not because the wound breaker announces it, not because they perform it, but because they embody it. They are living proof that the thing everyone said was fixed is not fixed. They are walking evidence. that the pattern everyone said was permanent is breakable, and that evidence is more powerful than any argument, more convincing than any teaching, more transformative than any program or plan or system. Because it is incarnate, it lives in a person, it breathes, it has a face. That face is yours. I want to speak to something specific about what it means to carry this identity in this particular season, because being a wound breaker at the threshold of a new chapter is different from being a wound breaker in the middle of the wilderness. In the wilderness, the wound breaking was largely invisible and largely internal. It was the quiet daily decision to not become what hurt you. It was the private discipline of fusing the bitterness that would have been entirely understandable given what you had been through. It was the solitary work of holding on to a belief in your own worth and your own calling, even when the evidence for either was thin on the ground. But at the threshold, the wound breaking becomes visible. It becomes relational. It becomes generative. Because the people who are coming into your life in this new season, the peers and collaborators and co-carriers I described earlier, are coming in part because they have sensed something in you that gives them permission to step into their own wound breaking. Your willingness to have come through what you came through and still be standing, still be open, still be willing to believe in what is possible is itself a transmission. It is a signal that goes out before you even open your mouth, and it draws toward you people who are ready to receive that signal and be changed by it. You are not just entering a new season for your own benefit. You are entering it as a carrier of something that will change the people your life touches from this point forward. The wounds that stop with you do not just stop with you. They stop with your children if you have them, and with the people your children influence, and with the communities those people inhabit. The breaking of a generational pattern is not a personal victory. It is a communal one. It ripples outward in directions you will never be able to fully track, touching lives you will never meet, changing trajectories you will never know were changed. This is the weight of what you carry, and I want you to feel it not as a burden but as a dignity, not as a pressure but as a privilege. You were not chosen for this because you are stronger than other people. You were chosen for this because something in the specific configuration of your pain and your persistence and your particular way of holding on to hope under pressure made you the right person to carry it. Not the perfect person, the right person. Now I want to speak something over you, not as a formula, not as a performance, but as a genuine transmission from this space to wherever you are right now as you receive these words. May the part of you that learned to make itself small in order to survive begin to understand that the season of smallness is over and that the space you were afraid to take up has been waiting for you to inhabit it fully. May the relationships that are coming find you ready, not perfect, not fully healed, not with every wound resolved, but ready, open, present, and willing to be met in the places where you have been carrying things alone for too long. May the purpose that is clarifying in you become as clear to you as it already is to the one who placed it there, so that when the one clear step appears, you recognize it without hesitation and take it without waiting for the fear to give you permission. May the resources and opportunities that are aligned with your assignment arrive with a peace that is unmistakable, so that you know, not from logic, but from the deep interior place where chosen ones know things, that what is coming is what was always meant for you. May the wounds that brought you to this threshold jog become the very things that qualify you to stand at the next one and hold the door open for someone who is walking the road you just walked. May the years that felt wasted reveal themselves to you, strand by strand, as the most essential years of your formation, the years without which nothing that is coming would be possible. And may you receive, in this season, the specific kind of rest that chosen ones rarely allows themselves. That chosen one, who has done what was asked of them, who has been faithful in the invisible places, who has held on when letting go would have been easier, and who is now standing at the threshold of something that was worth every single thing it cost. You are a wound breaker. That is not a title you earned by being impressive. It is a name you grew into by being faithful in ways that no one could see. And now the season is turning, and what was grown in the hidden place is about to become visible in a way that will surprise even you. Walk into it without apology. Walk into it without minimizing what you carry. Walk into it as someone who knows that the road behind them was real and the road ahead of them is ready. Because it is. You are a wound breaker standing at the threshold of a new chapter. And I want to get practical with you now. Because everything we have built together in this message, the naming of your signs, the honoring of the cost, the ancient wisdom of Kava, and the hour of revelation, the three things moving toward you, the identity you have been given, all of it means nothing if it stays in the realm of the beautiful and never touches the ground of your actual daily life. So I want to talk about what you need to do right now. Not someday, not when the circumstances shift, not when you feel more ready or more certain or more healed. Right now, in the life you are actually living, with the resources you actually have, from the place you are actually standing. There are three areas that are about to transform. And for each one, I want to give you not just a description of what is coming, but a concrete action. Something you can begin today, something that positions you to receive what is already moving toward you, rather than accidentally standing in the way of your own breakthrough. The first area is relationships. I told you earlier that old connections are going to loosen on their own and new people are going to arrive as peers and collaborators rather than as people who need to be carried by you. That is true, but there is something you need to do in preparation for those new people. And it is perhaps the most counterintuitive instruction I am going to give you in this entire message. You need to practice receiving before the new people arrive. Because if you do not practice receiving, you will greet the people who are coming with the same posture you have developed over years of being the giver, the helper, the strong one, the one who holds it together. And that posture, as noble as it has been, will create a distance between you and the people who are trying to come close in a new way. Receiving is a skill. It is a skill that chosen ones, especially those who have spent long seasons carrying weight for other people, have often allowed to atrophy. So here is the practice. Starting today, when someone offers you something, a compliment, a gesture of help, an expression of care, resist the impulse to deflect it or minimize it, or immediately reciprocate before you have actually taken it in. Simply receive it. Let it land. Say thank you and mean it without qualifying it. This sounds small. It is not small. It is the practice that opens the channel through which the new relational season can actually flow. You cannot receive the peers and collaborators who are coming if you have not first learned to receive the small offerings that are already arriving. The second practice for relationships is to identify one person in your current life who has been trying to reach you at a deeper level and has been met with your busyness or your depletion or your protective distance. One person, not a project, not a list, one person. And this week, reach back, not with a grand gesture, with a genuine one. A message that says, I have been thinking about you. A conversation that you allow to go somewhere real instead of staking it in the safe shallows. One genuine reach toward one person who has been waiting for you to have the capacity to meet them. That is where the new relational season begins. Not with the dramatic arrival of the new people, with the quiet deepening of one connection that was already there, waiting for you to be available for it. The second area is purpose. I told you that the question of what you are supposed to do is going to answer itself in one clear small step. But here is what I need to add to that. The step is not going to arrive as a thought. It is going to arrive as an impulse. It is going to feel like a nudge toward something specific, a pull toward a particular action or conversation or creation or offering. And the reasons so many chosen ones miss this step is not because the nudge does not come. It is because when it comes, they subject it immediately to the tribunal of logic and practicality and the accumulated skepticism of a long waiting season. And by the time they have finished deliberating, the impulse has faded and the moment has passed. So here is the practice for purpose. For the next 7 days, I want you to keep something nearby. A notebook, a note on your phone, whatever is most accessible. And every time you feel a pull towards something, write it down before you evaluate it. Do not ask yourself yet whether it is practical or realistic, or whether you have the skills or the resources or the time. Just write it down. At the end of 7 days, look at what you have written and look for the thing that appears most consistently. Not necessarily the most dramatic or the most impressive, but the most recurring. The thing that keeps nudging you back even when you try to set it aside. That recurring nudge is the one clear step. That is the direction that the season of purpose is opening toward. And once you identify it, take one action toward it within 24 hours. Not the full action, not the completed version. Just one action that says to the universe and to the God who placed that calling in you, I heard it, I am moving. Even a small movement in the right direction carries more power than an elaborate plan that stays inside your head. Movement is what signals readiness. Movement is what invites the next instruction. The path reveals itself to the person who is already walking, not to the person who is still standing at the trailhead waiting for a complete map. The third area is resources and opportunities. I told you that what is coming is not going to require the fight that the previous season required. That the opportunities aligned with your assignment are going to arrive with an ease that may initially feel suspicious. And I want to give you the practice that prepares you to recognize and receive those opportunities rather than unconsciously pushing them away because they do not match the template of striving that the previous season installed in you. The practice is what I am going to call a daily acknowledgement of already. Each morning, before you open your phone, before you check messages or news or the state of your circumstances, take 2 minutes and name 3 things that are already true. Not things you hope will be true, not things you are believing for. Things that are already true right now in the life you are currently living. They do not have to be large. They do not have to be impressive. They can be as simple as, I woke up with the capacity to think clearly. I have something to eat today. I have a calling that no circumstance has been able to erase. The practice of naming what is already true rewires the expectation center of your brain over time, gradually replacing the default setting of scarcity and striving with a default setting of sufficiency and reception. This is not positive thinking as a performance. This is neuroscience as a spiritual practice. When the brain's default expectation shifts from lack to sufficiency, it begins to notice opportunities that were always present but previously invisible. It begins to respond to the world with a posture of openness rather than a posture of defense. And a person with an open posture receives things that a defended person pushes away without even realizing they are doing it. Here is what I need you to understand about the three areas I just described. They are not separate. They are interconnected in a way that means movement in one area creates momentum in the others. When you practice receiving in your relationships, it directly affects your ability to receive the nudge that points toward your purpose. When you take one action toward your purpose, it directly affects the way resources and opportunities begin to align around you. When your expectation of sufficiency begins to replace your expectation of scarcity, it changes the quality of presence you bring to your relationships, which creates the conditions for deeper connection. Everything is connected. Everything is already moving, and the actions I have just given you are not separate tasks to be completed. They are threads that, when pulled together, accelerate the braiding that has already been happening in your life. I also want to speak to something that no one usually says in a message like this, because I think it needs to be said. The transformation of these three areas is not going to be linear. There are going to be days in this new season that feel very much like the old season. Days where the doubt comes back. Days where the old relational patterns reassert themselves. Days where the purpose feels murky again, and the resources feel thin again, and the progress feels invisible again. Those days are not evidence that the transformation has stopped. They are part of the transformation. The chosen ones who make it fully through the threshold are not the ones who never have a hard day in the new season. They are the ones who have a hard day and do not interpret it as a sign that the breakthrough was not real. Your breakthrough is real. The three areas are already moving. The relationships are already shifting. The purpose is already clarifying. The resources and opportunities are already aligning. What I have given you today are not the tools to make these things happen. They are the tools to make sure you are positioned to receive what is already happening. You have been faithful in the invisible season. Now step into the visible one with the same faithfulness, the same consistency, the same quiet determination that carried you through the wilderness. Because the wound breaker who made it through that season is more than equipped for what is coming next. You have come a long way in this message. And I do not mean that as a figure of speech. I mean it in the most literal sense possible. You arrived here carrying something, and if you have been present through everything we have walked through together, you are not carrying it in quite the same way anymore. Something has shifted in the interior. Something has been named that was previously nameless. Something has been seen that was previously invisible. And I want to honor that before we go any further, because the journey you have taken inside this message mirrors the journey you have been taking inside your life. And both of them deserve to be acknowledged before we arrive at the threshold of what comes next. I want to say something to you that I mean with complete sincerity. Thank you, not as a formality, not as a closing ritual, as a genuine expression of what it means to me that you stayed. Because I know what it costs a person who has been in a long season of waiting to keep showing up. I know what it costs to keep listening, when the listening itself requires a kind of hope that has been tested to its limit. You could have closed this message at any point. You could have decided it was not for you, that the words were too much or not enough, that your situation was too specific or too far gone to be touched by anything being said here. But you stayed. And the part of you that stayed is the same part that has been staying through every hard season of your life. The part that refuses to quit. The part that keeps its face toward the light even when the light has been dim for a very long time. That part of you is extraordinary, and it deserves to be told so. I also want you to know that you are not alone in this moment. That is not a comforting phrase I am offering because it sounds good. It is a literal truth. All across the world, right now, other chosen ones are walking into this exact same message, sitting in their own kitchens and their own cars and their own quiet rooms, carrying their own versions of what you have been carrying and receiving the same naming, the same seeing, the same ancient words about braiding and revelation and the threshold of a new season. You are part of a community of chosen ones who are waking up together. And the waking is not isolated or random. It is coordinated by something far larger than any single message or messenger. You are not alone. You have never been alone. And in the season that is opening, the evidence of that companionship is going to become increasingly visible in the form of the people who arrive, the confirmations that appear, and the inexplicable sense of being accompanied that's a chosen ones at the threshold begin to experience as the veil between the waiting season and the new one grows thin. Now I want to give you something to do with the weight you have been carrying. Not a metaphor, an actual practice, an exercise that I want you to do right now, wherever you are, in whatever posture you are in as you receive these words. I want you to imagine that you are standing at a threshold, a doorway. It does not need to be elaborate or specific. Just a doorway with everything behind you that has belonged to this long season, and everything ahead of you that belongs to the season that is opening. And I want you to do something that may feel strange at first, but that carries a power that is difficult to overstate. I want you to set down what you have been carrying. Not permanently, not in a way that denies that it was real, or that it mattered, or that it cost you something significant. But just for this moment, at this threshold, I want you to imagine taking the weight. All of it. The grief about the relationships that could have been built. The ache about the career that could have gone further. The wound of being passed over. The exhaustion of being misunderstood. The private doubt about whether the calling was ever real. And I want you to imagine setting it down at the threshold. Not throwing it away, just setting it down. Letting your hands be empty for a moment. Letting your shoulders be unburdened for a moment. Feeling what it feels like to stand in a doorway without the weight of the entire journey pressing down on you from behind. You do not have to carry it through the door with you. The threshold is the place where what served you in the wilderness can be released, honored for what it built in you, and left behind as you step into a season where what is required of you is not the ability to endure, but the ability to receive. Breathe for a moment. Let that be true. And now I want to weave something in here gently, because this is the right moment for it, and I do not want to leave this space without saying it one more time. All across this message, we have talked about the frequency you carry, about the gamma signal that chosen ones are born with, and that long seasons of hardship suppress, and about the work of Dr. James Rivers and what he developed to restore that frequency in 7 minutes. I am not going to make a lengthy appeal here. You have already heard everything you need to make your own decision. But if the genius wave met you somewhere in the middle of this message, if something stirred when I described it, if some part of you recognized in it the practical companion to everything the spiritual content of this message has been pointing toward, then you already know what your answer is. It is waiting for you in the pinned comment below, exactly the way everything prepared for you waits, without pressure, without urgency, with complete confidence that you will arrive at it when you are ready. And now, before I release you into the closing of this message, I want to pause here and speak to something that belongs to this exact moment. The moment after the burden has been set down and before the first step through the door has been taken. Because this in-between space, this breath at the threshold, is where chosen ones often feel the most tender, and the most open. And it is the right moment to say something about what has been built here today. Something real was built in this space, in the conversation between my voice and your heart, and it belongs to both of us now. If this message has meant something to you, if it has named something, or restored something, or confirmed something that you needed to have confirmed, I want to gently invite you to press like as a way of saying so without needing to find the words. And if you feel moved to leave something in the comments, a word, a sentence, whatever is true for you right now, please know that every chosen one who arrives at this message after you will find your words waiting for them, and that your presence in the comments means that no one who comes here has to feel like they arrived alone. That is not a small thing. That is an act of genuine love toward a stranger who is walking the same road you just walked. If there is one person in your life who is still in the middle of what you have been coming through, one person who is sitting at their own kitchen table at 3 in the morning with a cold cup of tea and a question they cannot answer, sharing this message with them is the simplest and most direct act of love you can offer them right now. You do not have to explain it. You do not have to prepare them for it. Just send it. Let it find them the way it found you. And if you want the next messages to find you without you having to search for it, stay. Subscribe as a gesture toward a platform, but as a choice to remain in this community of chosen ones who are waking up together, who are setting down their burdens at the thresholds together, who are stepping through the door together into a season that was worth every single thing the waiting cost. And if you feel moved to pass something forward, to leave something in the pinned comment that will help this message reach the next person who needs it, that door is open. No pressure, no expectation, just an open hand, and whatever you place in it will travel further than you know. You have been here, you have shown up, you have stayed. That means everything. You are standing in the doorway now. And I want to leave you with something that is not information, not instruction, not another thing to carry or remember or apply. I want to leave you with a blessing, a real one. The kind that does not ask anything of you in return and does not expire when the message ends. You came here carrying something that most people around you could not see. You came here with a question underneath all your other questions, a question that sounded like, is any of this real? Is the calling real? Is the waiting going to mean something? Am I going to be okay? And I want to speak directly to that question now, not with an argument, not with a list of reasons, but with the simple and unqualified answer that this entire message has been building toward. Yes, it's real. You are real. The calling is real. The waiting has been real, and it has been working, and it has been building something in you that is more durable and more luminous than anything that could have been built in an easier season. And you are going to be more than okay. You are going to be the kind of okay that looks like wholeness, that looks like purpose inhabited fully, that looks like a person who knows who they are and why they are here and what they are carrying and where they are going. May you walk through the door in front of you with your hands open and your heart undefended. May the wound breaker in. You find every room it was meant to enter and change every atmosphere it was meant to change. May the strands that were braided in the long season hold the full weight of everything that is coming. And may you feel, in the carrying of it, not burden but dignity. May the people who are coming find you ready to be met. May the purpose that is clarifying find you willing to move toward it without waiting for the fear to give you permission. May the resources and opportunities that carry your name arrive with a peace so unmistakable that you receive them without suspicion and without the old reflex of striving. May the hour of revelation come to you gently and completely. And may the moment where your pain receives its name as calling be so clear and so full that every year of the waiting is redeemed in a single breath of understanding. You are chosen. You are potent. You are a wound breaker standing at the most important threshold of your life so far. And the season on the other side of this door is not a reward for your suffering. It is the natural unfolding of a plan that has been in motion since before you understood what you were carrying. Go forward. Go gently. Go with the full knowledge that heaven has not taken its eyes off you for a single moment of this journey, and that it is not about to start now. You are loved. You are seen. You are ready.